Hi everyone, and thank you very much for joining me today for this live lesson, or we also can call it a webinar. And if you don't know me, my name is Helen. I'm head teacher here at Los Angeles English School. And today's webinar is for intermediate and also for advanced English level learners. If you are this learner, so you're very welcome. Today we're going with you to learn some phrasal verbs, and the topic which these phrasal verbs are connected with is money. So why we are learning phrasal verbs? Because phrasal verbs are very common in everyday conversations, and all of my students, especially if they are intermediate or advanced level learners, they are always eager to learn more phrasal verbs. So I hope that you'll enjoy this webinar and you'll take active part and you will communicate with me. For this, I want you to answer my questions and write your answers in the chat box. So if you're watching a replay of this webinar and it happened that you couldn't attend this webinar, you also can pause video and write your answers in the comments. But of course, if you are now in this webinar live with me together, write your answers in the chat box and I'm going to see your answers and I will be answering your questions and correcting your sentences. So, and I have a very good news for you. So today we have Tuesday. Yeah, so every Tuesday on this YouTube channel, we will have webinars for free for intermediate and advanced level learners. So you're very welcome to join us every Tuesday at the same time. Okay, so by the way, if you haven't subscribed to this YouTube channel yet, make sure that you hit the subscribe button and also click on the bell icon so that you will get notified of all our upcoming webinars and new videos. Alright guys, so let's get started. And what we are going to do now is, as I said, today our lesson is on phrasal verbs and they are going to be connected with the topic money somehow. And the first thing that we're going to do, I'm going to give you an explanation. So I'm going to start with the meaning of some phrasal verbs. And you will hear the meaning first, the definition, and I'd like you to guess which phrasal verb I'm describing. So maybe you know it, so maybe you will be able to guess it. And write your guesses in the chat box, okay? So let's get started. And my first explanation, let me just open it for myself. My first explanation is, so we all work, and maybe not all, but the majority of people work. So if you are an adult and you have a job, because we need to earn money, some teenagers, they don't work yet and their parents give them money for a living. And different people have different resource that they live for. So your salary or some kind of source, it's something that provides you with money. Maybe these are your parents. So farmers, they depend on the land because they grow vegetables and fruit, and this gives them money. So if you depend on something or on somebody as your main source of income, you of this. Can you guess a phrasal verb that we can use here? So how else can you say that I depend on this as my main source of income? Maybe you can guess it. So I'll check it in the chat box and I'll see, maybe you have some ideas. And don't be embarrassed. If you know the answer, type it in the chat box for me. So you depend on something as your main source of income. We have a phrasal verb for this. All right, guys, so I will give you the answer. So probably now you see it on the screen. Yeah. So we live off somebody or something. Live off somebody or something. So I live off my salary. I work and I get money for this. I live off my salary. When I was a child and a teenager and I didn't work, I lived off my parents. So they gave me money. And I have a question for you. What or maybe who do you live off? What or who do you live off? Can you answer in the chat box? I'm waiting for your answers. My question again, so if you have just joined us, what do you live off? So I have an answer. I live off my salary. Very good. Okay, let's move on. And my next phrasal verb, my next definition is, so for example, sometimes, so everything can happen, and sometimes we don't have enough money, or maybe we want to open our company, so we want to start a business and we need some money, and we go to the bank and we borrow some money, or we turn to our friends or relatives and we ask them for money. But then, of course, we need to repay our debt. So we need to give it back. So if you repay your debts, something that you have to give back, so what do? You repay your debts, or we have a phrasal verb for this. Can you guess it? All right, guys, so I'll help you and you can check yourself. So we pay off something. Pay off something. So, for example, you can say, "Oh, thanks, Lord, I've paid off all my debts and I am free now, so I don't owe anything to anyone." So you can pay off a debt. So I, for example, I don't like to borrow money. I think that no one likes it, and I try to pay off all my debts as soon as I can. So what about you? Do you have any debts that you haven't paid off yet? So can you answer this question? Do you have any debts that you haven't paid off yet? So let me know in the chat box. So I can see yes, someone has. Okay. And we move on. The next phrasal verb. So, for example, sometimes we have some troubles and maybe we don't have enough money, or sometimes we can get fired, so it happens, we can lose our job, and then we turn to maybe our relatives, maybe our parents or friends, and we ask them for help. So for example, I can say, I can always depend on somebody, or we have a phrasal verb for this. So you can on somebody or on something. So you turn to somebody or something for support when other things fail. What do? Can you guess this phrasal verb? So guys, and the answer is you fall back on somebody or something. Fall back on somebody or something. So we have rely on, yeah, it's possible, it's okay, yeah. Or lean on, great. So these are all great ideas. These are fine, but I just wanted to give you another phrasal verb. Okay, and I have a question for you. Who will you fall back on if you need help? Not only financial help. Yeah, so it can be any help. So who will you fall back on if you need help? Let me know, please, guys. So to give you an example, I will fall back on my husband or maybe that's all. So I can always fall back on my sisters. They support me my entire life. Great. That's nice, Victoria, that you have such sisters. It's super. All right, let's move on. Another phrasal verb. So, for example, you decide to do something. So you have an intention and you have boom, okay, so probably it's time for me to start my own business. Or, all right, so I'm going to learn English. Or, great, I'm going to do something. So you have an intention, you decide to do something, to achieve something. Which phrasal verb do you think this is? Do you have any ideas? So the answer, guys, is set out to do something. Set out to do something. For example, all right, so I set out to start my own company. Or I set out to lose weight. I set out, for example, I set out to practice sports at least 3 times a week. So I have an example for you. I had set out to become an English teacher and I achieved it. And my question for you, can you think about one thing that you set out to do and achieved it? So you actually did it. So write in the comments, in the chat box, sorry, I set out to, and I did it. I achieved it. Can you type your answers? So I set out to, and I did it. I made it. So you can type your answers in the chat box. So no one said, oh no, I set out to build my own house and I did it. Dmitry, cool. It's very good. I had set out to learn a tune on the guitar and I completed it. Okay, great. So we have some people who have some ideas and intentions and dreams. It's very nice. So let's go on. The next phrasal verb. It's, for example, you have some sum of money, an amount of money, and it's not too much, and it's just enough to eat and to buy clothes for yourself. It's like it's just enough to live. And that's it. So you cannot go on vacation, you cannot buy any jewelry, for example. So it's just you have this sum of money and it's just enough for you to live. So you on something, on some sum of money. Can you guess a phrasal verb, please? So to have just enough to eat and to sleep in a house or in an apartment and to buy clothes. Can you guess a phrasal verb? Yeah, I have here an answer, get by. Great, guys, you know this. It's very surprising, really. Okay, so you get by on something. Okay. And I have a question for you. So, have you ever had to get by on very little money? Have you ever had to get by on very little money? Can you answer in the chat box? Actually, I remember when I was a child and my family had to get by on very little money. There were some times. Dmitry gets by on allowance from his parents. Okay, it's great that your parents give you some money. I had to get by on my scholarship when I was a student. Oh, Victoria, it's good. I hope that the scholarship was not too little. Okay, thank you. Let's move on. The next phrasal verb. So my explanation and you guess, yeah? If, for example, usually it's about money or it can be property, maybe a house or apartment or something. So it's when you inherit money or some property from your relatives, maybe from your immediate family or from relatives that are not so close to you, maybe your aunts or uncles, grandma, grandpa. So if you inherit some sum of money, you can you guess a phrasal verb? Victoria, congratulations! Come into fortune. Yeah, it's good. You can come into something. Come into something. Yeah, so you can come into fortune as here I see the comment. Yeah, you inherit a lot of money. And I, for example, can imagine if I came into a lot of money, if I inherited a lot of money, I would, if I came into a lot of money, I would help my parents and I would set, I would start my own business and I would, I think I would help poor people. So if you came into a lot of money, what would you do, guys? Let me know in the chat box. So if I came into a lot of money, I would firstly help my parents, I think. Okay, so the same is about me. So I think that I would do this as well. If I came into a lot of money, I would buy a new car. Okay, I think that boys usually, men usually dream about that. Okay, thank you guys for your comments. Let's move on. The next phrasal verb for you is so for example, you progress, something progresses or rises at the same rate as something else. So, for example, we have prices, and prices usually, like they tend to rise, I think. And the salary, for example, or wages also, of course, has to rise. And then prices rise and salaries rise, and it happens at the same time. Like the proportion is very similar. So the prices and the wages or salary, they so the salary with prices. Can you guess a phrasal verb for this? So, and the phrasal verb that I meant is keep up with somebody or something. Keep up with somebody or something. For example, I can say, you know, the prices are rising all the time, and my salary isn't keeping up with them. So my salary stays the same and prices are rising. So my salary can't keep up with the rising prices. Keep up also means to be aware of something and to find out information about something. For example, I sometimes watch the news to keep up with the latest news, or I read newspapers to keep up with the outside world. And of course, I have a question for you guys so that you can practice. How do you try to keep up with what's happening in the outside world? Do you watch the news? Do you talk to people? Do you ask questions? Do you watch TV? So, how do you try to keep up with what's happening in the outside world? Yeah, I have a question here. Victoria wrote, can I say I tried to keep up with my classmates when I was a school child? Yeah, sure, you can say it. Yeah, great. So guys, how do you try to keep up with what's happening in the outside world? Try to keep up with the news using some news channels on YouTube. Okay, good idea. So let's move on, guys. And I have two more phrasal verbs for you. So, for example, you have a problem or you have a situation and you try to explain the situation by giving some reasons for this situation. So, we have some cause and effect, and you try to explain why something happened. For example, usually she's very friendly and smiling, but today, for some reason, she's so sad and unhappy and she's rude. And you say, I think she's rude and unfriendly and unhappy because she is very tired. So she's exhausted. So you can explain her behavior by giving some reasons and examples. By explaining, you try to explain her behavior. So what phrasal verb do you think you can use here? Great. Yeah. Put something down to something, Victoria. Yeah. Again, congratulations. Okay. So let's look at this verb. Yeah, put something down to something. Put something down to something. So, my example for you guys. So I actually studied very well at school and then at university, and I put my success in studies down to my hard work and enthusiasm. So I put my success in my studies down to my hard work and enthusiasm. So I liked to study. So I want you to think about success in your life. It can be any success. We can have success in business, success in your career, success in your family relationships with your kids or your husband or your wife. So can you give me an example? And you need to write down, I put my success in something down to something. Can you give me your examples? So just some help. Again, I put my success in studies down to my hard work and enthusiasm. Can you give me your example? So I put my success in career down to my enthusiasm and encouragement from my colleagues. Thank you. Yeah, I think it's important. Encouragement, it's very important in career. Okay, thank you guys. So, and we have the last phrasal verbs for today. And I am sure that you need to have some emergency fund. What I mean, for example, we work, we earn money, and we spend money, yeah? So we need to buy different goods and clothes and some stuff. But sometimes I personally cut back on my spendings and I don't spend some of money, some amount of money, and I put it somewhere. Or maybe you can have a special credit card where you can put some money and don't spend it. So you try to save some money, or you accumulate money, or you can money. So which phrasal verb do you think you can use? Save some money, accumulate some money. Put aside. Yeah, great idea. Spare money. Yeah, it's not a phrasal verb, yeah. It's just a phrase. But put aside is good. Save out. No. So nice ideas, guys. But of course, I have some phrasal verb in mind. And this phrasal verb is put something by. So put something by. For example, I won't spend this money. I put some money by. So you set aside. Okay, and a question for you. Do you put any money by to deal with emergencies? Do you put any money by to deal with emergencies? So you accumulate some money. In my family, every month we put some money by on our credit card. So do you put any money by? Share your answers, please, guys. I put some money by every month, just in case. Yeah, it's a good idea, Victor. I think it's essential. Okay, so guys, we have all our phrasal verbs here. You can see them. And now we're going to have some practice. And this practice is going to be the following. Now we're going to listen to 5 people: a self-made woman, a rich woman, a bankrupt businessman, unemployed person, and a middle-aged regular saver. And these people will be talking about their attitude to money, their financial situation, and so on. And these people will be using some of these phrasal verbs. And I'd like you to do a little task together with me so that you can remember and you practice this. So we listen to these people, and you need to type in the chat box which phrasal verbs from these you can identify. Okay? So let's start with a self-made woman. Wait a moment.
Five A. 1. I come from a very poor background. My parents never had any...
And guys, before we move on, can you type, please? Could you please hear the audio? Yeah, guys, put by it's British, but we learn everything, not only American one. So here we have international language. So could you hear the audio? Could you type, please? Yes, I could hear. Oh, very good. All right. So guys, let's listen. So the first person is a self-made woman, and I want you to listen to her and type two phrasal verbs that she will use, okay?
I come from a very poor background. My parents never had any money, so we literally lived from hand to mouth. That's probably why I set out to become rich before I was 30. I found a job in a company, and when I'd saved up enough money, I started up my own business. What do I put my success down to? Hard work. You have to work hard for what you want in this life.
Alright guys, so which two phrasal verbs could you identify? Which two phrasal verbs did she use? So, I hope you did well. The answers are set out to do something. So she said that she set out to become rich. And also she used put something down to something. So she puts her success down to hard work. All right, let's move on. We're going to listen to a rich woman, another woman.
2.
I'm fortunate because I came into a lot of money when my aunt died and left me everything. I invested the money and now I live off the interest. I suppose I'm what you would call well off, but money isn't everything. Sometimes it creates more problems than it solves.
So guys, which phrasal verbs could you hear? So let's check the answer. So she used the phrasal verb come into something. So when her aunt died, she came into fortune. She inherited a lot of money. And also she used the phrasal verb live off somebody or something. So she invested the money and now she lives off the interest. Let's move on. Now we're going to listen to a bankrupt businessman.
3.
At one time I was extremely well off, but then came the stock market crash and I lost everything. I had no money to pay off my debts and I was declared bankrupt. What did I learn from this experience? Firstly, money doesn't grow on trees, and secondly, when you lose everything, you find out who your real friends are. They're the ones who stay with you when you come down in the world.
Okay, so guys, I hope that you're okay with this accent. So it's just very interesting accents they have. I think Irish or maybe Australian, I'm not sure. So yeah, we have some correct answers, and he used the phrasal verb pay off something. So he had no money to pay off his debts. Let's move on to another person. We have unemployed person.
4. The last job I had was so badly paid that I couldn't make ends meet on my salary, and as a result I was always getting into debt. Everything was becoming more expensive all the time, but my salary stayed the same, so I couldn't keep up with the cost of living. My bank account was in the red and I had no savings to fall back on. And then I lost my job. Now things are really hard and I have to get by on less than £50 a week. I know they say money can't buy happiness, but I'd rather be rich and unhappy than poor and unhappy.
5.
Alright, so let's check the answers. Which phrasal verbs did she use? So she used keep up with somebody or something. So she lost her job and she couldn't keep up with the cost of living. The next, fall back on something. She had no financial support to fall back on. and she used get by on something. So she has to get by on very little money. And the final person who we are going to listen to is a middle-aged regular saver. So let's listen to this person.
Some people spend money like water, but not me. I believe in saving up for a rainy day. I put by a little money every week. You see, you have to think about the future when you're my age. When you're young, you don't need money, but when you're old, you can't live without it.
Yeah, of course, guys, we have only one phrasal verb which is left, put something by. So this man puts by little money for a rainy day, as he said. Alright, so we recycled or we revised these phrasal verbs, and now we're going to do a little exercise. So let's move on to this. And now I'd like you to look at this screen. And we have here all our phrasal verbs. And, oh, we have here 1, 2, 3. All right, so we have phrasal verbs. Actually, we have 9. There is one little mistake here. So we have our phrasal verbs, and also we have on the right side, we have meanings and definitions. So I'd like you to guess a phrasal verb. So I will read a definition A, and you guess a phrasal verb. So, to return to somebody or something for support when other things have failed. Can you guess a phrasal verb? So guys, the answer is fall back on somebody or something. B, to begin with the intention of achieving something. So it's you have an intention to do something, to accomplish something. So what phrasal verb is this? Yeah, I can see it's set out to do something. Yeah, okay. So the next one, to repay a debt. So it's pay off something. Let's move on. To think that a problem or situation is caused by a particular thing. It's when you try to explain the situation by giving some explanations, reasons. The answer is put something down to something. Yeah, you have correct answers. I see it. All right, the next one. To progress or rise at the same rate as someone or something else. To progress or rise at the same rate as someone or something else. And the answer is keep up with somebody or something. The next one, to save some money to use later. To save some money to use later. And the answer is put something by. Let's move on. To depend on somebody or something as a source of your income. To depend on somebody or something as a source of income. And the answer, live off somebody or something. So the next one, to be able to live by having just enough of something you need, such as money. So to be able to live by having just enough of something you need, such as money. And of course, it's get by on something. And the final one, to inherit something, of course, it's to come into something. All right, guys, so I hope that you did it well. And now we will move on. We will have some more practice. This is the final exercise or the final practice so that you will remember these phrasal verbs. Oh, I can see, guys, you were typing answers. Thank you. Let's move on. Yeah, so now you have, you can see 7 sentences. We need to remake these sentences with phrasal verbs that we've just learned. Just a second. Okay, so the first one, how do you manage to survive on so little money? How do you manage to survive on so little money? Can you try to remake this sentence by using a suitable phrasal verb? You can type your answers in the chat box. So remake this sentence. All right, guys. So, and the answer is how do you manage to get by on so little money? So how do you manage to get by on so little money? Yeah, and I have here correct answers. I see your answers. Dmitry, Victoria, thank you. Yeah, it's correct. All right, so let's move on to the next sentence. I've repaid all my debts. I've repaid all my debts. Try to remake this sentence, please. And the answer is I've paid off all my debts. All right, the next sentence. My salary isn't rising as fast as inflation. My salary isn't rising as fast as inflation. How about this one? So, and the answer is my salary isn't keeping up with inflation. So my salary isn't keeping up with inflation. All right, the next sentence. She decided she wanted to start her own business. She decided she wanted to start her own business. What about this sentence? So the answer is she set out to start her own business. She set out to start her own business. So let's go to the next one. So sentence number 5. If I ever get into financial difficulties, I know I can always rely on my brother for help. If I ever get into financial difficulties, I know I can always rely on my brother for help. And the answer is, if I ever get into financial difficulties, I know I can always fall back on my brother for help. I can always fall back on my brother for help. Sentence number 6. She supports herself with the money she gets from selling her books. She supports herself with the money she gets from selling her books. Try to remake this one. And the answer is she lives off the money she gets from selling her books. She lives off the money she gets from selling her books. And finally, number 7. We thought her rude behavior was the result of stress. We thought her rude behavior was the result of stress. So, what phrasal verb do you think we need to use here? So, we put her rude behavior down to stress. So we put her bad behavior, rude behavior, down to stress. Alright, so this was our last exercise, guys, and I hope that you did well. Alright. Alright, so guys, I see that it's time to wrap up our webinar. It's been 1 hour already. Alright, so thank you very much for being with me today. It was very pleasant to see you here and to read your comments, your answers in the chat box, guys. Thank you so much. And I have a little challenge for you, kind of homework. So we have learned together with you 9 phrasal verbs, and your homework or your challenge is to make your own sentences with these phrasal verbs and write them down in the comments below the video. So as we finish, you can watch a replay of this webinar, and in the comments below this webinar, this video, I will leave all these phrasal verbs, and you can look through them again and you can make your own sentences. It's better when your sentences will be personalized. So it's much better when you make sentences about you. So they should be authentic and real. And I will check your sentences, I will read them, and if you have mistakes, I'll correct them. And thank you again for being with me today. I'm waiting for your sentences. Again, make sure if you haven't subscribed yet, click the subscribe button and an icon with a bell so you will be notified of all our webinars and videos. If you want to study with us, you can visit our website, losangeles.englishschool.com, and study with us on Skype. Thanks again, and I wish you have a fantastic day, and bye!